News Live. I hope you're having a fabulous Friday. I'm so excited for this show. This is going to be a great topic. I would love for you guys to sprinkle the love across the interwebs. Let other people know about this show. If they have a small business or starting a small business and they're struggling with their marketing and strategy, this is going to be the show for them. So make sure you mention them down below. Call them in. Even if they can't be in here live, they can watch the replay. We are happy to answer questions afterwards. And speaking of questions, make sure you ask yours. We have Liz here for a small amount of time, and it's like free consulting. So ask her your questions. It's amazing. That's why we do the show. That's why Grace and I do the show, is because we are able to ask people and get free consulting. Grace, how are you doing this morning on this fine day?
I am doing really great. I'm so excited to have Liz on. We're just talking about how we've known each other since like the mom blogging days, which feels like it feels like it's my first evolution as a Pokemon or something. So,
That's right.
I mean, that's at least 12 years ago at least. So it's been a while.
That's cool. It's fun how those relationships develop. Speaking of relationships, we got our friend Tim here today. He goes, hey, weren't you just on his show not very long ago, Grace?
He was on my show. He did this crazy 24-hour stream for the Lymphoma and Leukemia Society, and so I interviewed him about that over at Restream. So it's cool.
So he goes, I was wondering why you do the show. The truth has been revealed. Excited for this now. Yes, it's free consulting, Tim. That's the whole reason I started it. I want to show you guys, because we talked about this last week, and we are over on Amazon, and I do have it highlighted in the stream. But I want you guys to check out this amazing microphone. Last week I had the actual the Chrome version of the Fin, and this was provided to me by Heil. But this is the matte black Fin microphone with the red lights. I think it looks like Darth Vader. I think it sounds pretty cool. I love it. So if you're looking for a new mic and you like the retro look and you want it not to be like the chromey kind of one like we had last week, make sure you check out this mic from Heil, because I just think it looks cool. And I think, gamers could use it and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, I'm using that today. Go check that out if you're watching over on Amazon. So I want to give a shout out to Heil for doing that for me. So are you ready, Grace? Are you ready for me to hit go on the podcast machine?
I am, but I'm having on Amazon, I'm having the bit rate issue. So we'll deal with that off
Okay,
the show.
We'll figure it out later. Yeah, it's probably something to deal with Restream. But anyway, let us get started. I'm going to go hit go on the podcast machine, and we'll get going. Hello, folks. Welcome to Social Media News Live. I'm Jeff C., and you're not.
And I'm Grace Duffy, and this is the show that keeps you up to date on what's happening in the world of social media and more. And on today's show, we have our friend Liz Joseph here with us, and we are talking to her about the new Facebook page experience, and then Pro Mode, which rolled out a few months ago. So if you know, you know, and if you don't, stay tuned and find out. Well, even if you do know, stay tuned. Keep watching, because we're going to also talk about how small businesses can make a big impact with social media, which is a big concern these days. And then we're also going to talk about where you should be investing your marketing dollars in the immediate future.
So, Liz, how are you doing today? And where are you from? You Memphis, correct? Is that what you said earlier?
I live in Memphis, Tennessee, but I'm from the Chicago area.
So what why did you move to Memphis? Was it just like, I have to get down south where everybody's nice? Or why did you come to Memphis?
My husband's job. It was a corporate relocation. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Very, very cool. So I want to do a shout out as well. We talked about Heil at the beginning, but also our show is sponsored by Ecamm, and you can find out more about them by going to socialmedianewslive.com/Ecamm. They are actually doing the sale now. It ends the end of this month, and so you want to make sure you do it. If you're a new Ecamm user, you can get 30% off Ecamm, and you use the promo code July30. That's all uppercase, all smashed together. Use that when you do your checkout. 30% off is kind of a big deal, so make sure you guys check that out before the end of the month. You can find out more at socialmedianewslive.com/Ecamm. All right, so let us get into the show.
We have to introduce Liz.
Oh, I know. I'm trying to get my things, all my buttons right. So
Grace has got my back.
She does. Right, exactly. But if you don't know who Liz is, Grace will remind you and make me tell you. She is a marketing strategist. She's a trainer and business owner of Eli Rose Social Media. She is a former marketer. Liz has owned her own firm since 2011 and is certified in SEO, Facebook ads, and social media management. Like she said, she's originally from Chicago and currently living in the land down south. She relishes the flavor of fried pickles and barbecue, but longs for deep dish pizza and a proper Chicago dog. Fried pickles. So you're a convert of fried pickles. That's really funny. I think that's.
I didn't know that they existed until we moved down here 19 years ago, and they are amazing.
They are.
I mean, anything fried with a dipping sauce is amazing,
exactly.
right? I mean, might as well be pickles.
Well, we're from Texas, so like you can.
Right.
I was like, I don't know that there's a thing you can't fry. You know, like if there is, we've fried it.
We
It's
will
like,
try to fry it. That's right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
we have fried butter. We've fried.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, Liz, I saw that you have a podcast too, Real Talk, No Fluff. So, tell us about this podcast you started with Rhonda. Is it that your co-host? Okay,
Rhonda Van Buren. We started this. She actually approached me about doing it. We're both very, let's say, like no nonsense, straightforward people, and just in general, but also the advice that we give our clients. She has a similar, mini agency like I do. We overlap in a lot of things, but there's some things I do that she doesn't, and vice versa. So it's just kind of our take in helping small business owners, just practical, straightforward kind of advice on not just social media, but all the online marketing topics. So we've done about 15 or 16 episodes so far.
Wow. And how do you feel about podcasting? How do you like it?
Well, she's the one who does all the tech side of things, and I'm the one who prepares, the content and the topics and all that stuff. So I think it's, after a decade of blogging, a decade plus of blogging, I think, I'm still naturally inclined to do the written content preparation. So we divide and conquer. I'm sure like how you and Jeff do too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly how Jeff and I break it down.
That's right.
He does all the.
I do all the button pushing. Yeah, and then Grace tells me when I skip things, and she'll get me back on track. We do have some people.
I don't tell Rhonda when she skips things. So yeah.
So we have a question. What is Ecamm? You just joined the group, by the way. Hello from Puerto Rico. Well, hello to you. Thank you for joining us all the way from Puerto Rico. But Ecamm is the software we're actually using to produce the show with the lower thirds and the moving background and all that stuff. It's an amazing piece of software. So thanks for asking. And then I'm not sure why. Once again, we've having some issues. Facebook has changed some things, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. But unknown user loves fried pickles, so I'm not sure who that is. Let us know in the comments who the pickle lover is, and we will make sure to acknowledge you.
Who is the pickle lover?
That's right, the
there
mystery.
Should be more than one because they're amazing.
My daughter goes bonkers
about on that.
Yeah, my daughter. So if you like fried pickles, I want to know if you've never tried fried pickles. Let us know in the comments, because if you haven't, well, Grace will whip you up a batch and send them right out. So
they got to be slices, not the spears, though. Spears fried pickles are just not the same.
Yeah,
it's Jim over in Atlanta.
Oh, Jim's had fried pickles. I'm sure he's had fried pickles. He's a fried pickle dude. So, Grace, let's go into our first section because we want to make sure we hit everything today because we got a packed show. So,
let's talk about this. So we're talking about again. I started off planning the show thinking we're just going to talk about this new Facebook stuff, but then as I was prepping, I saw a bunch of posts from Eli Rose, Liz's agency, and I was like, light bulb moment. This is such a more interesting topic. And it was about making a big impact when you've got a small business budget. And in this post I saw on LinkedIn, Liz, you name these 5 things as your priorities is like a well-built website, content plan, social media strategy, Google Analytics, and an ad budget. And you talk about those are the 5 things you need to have in place to make a big impact. So is this a list that's in order of importance or priority? Because I see social media is number 3 on the list. And, and so let's talk about is this the order of okay, I need to get my marketing in line, got to shore it up. Is this the list that I should hit in this order?
Well, Google Analytics is kind of like a part B that attaches to the website, I would say, because you need to have your website and it has to be well built, meaning lots of things. It's not necessarily that it has to be brand new, but it needs to have good content organization, have, easy to find important pieces of information, just like contact information. You want to have useful information about your products or your services, things like that. So the Google Analytics, after you have your website, which I didn't specifically mention this in that list, but I'm a huge fan of SEO, and SEO is one of the services that we offer. But basically your website is your online home base, and it's where you're pushing all your marketing to. So I do think that your website needs to be that step one. And when people come to me and they say, hey, I need a website and social media, I always say, we got to get your website squared away first, because social media or paid ads, that's your marketing that you're pushing to your website. So if your website isn't up to snuff, you're going to be doing a whole lot of marketing or spending a lot of money on ads, but then your website isn't, going to do its part of the job. So I do think the website is definitely number one. Google Analytics is a free tracking data tool, basically, if you're unfamiliar with it, that is provided by Google. And it's just, you create the account, put some tracking code on your site, but that's how you get a lot of information about like where users come from, what pages are the most visited, your referral sources of referral traffic. There's all kinds of information, because almost everything that you do online has some kind of offline parallel. So in the pre-internet world, or if you have a brick and mortar store, you can see people who come into your business. How many people call you. You even know how many emails you get. What kind of questions you get asked. Google Analytics is basically your way to get that same kind of information, but from people who visit your website, because obviously you have no way to actually see the people who visit your website. So maybe that should be like a 1B to your website being step one. Yes, I would say that. Otherwise, with social, every business needs to create some amount of original content. Yes, you can curate content, meaning content that someone else has produced, as part of your content mix. But you really need, if you want to be successful, you really need some kind of original content plan, some kind of content production that you're doing. So I do think it's important to figure that out too, because that's going to tie into then how you're using it to market your business, where it's your social, your email marketing, those kinds of things.
So we're focused on small businesses today, which a lot of our audience members happen to be running, or they have their own personal brands and have their own little side hustles that they're doing. So, what that means, of course, is limited staff, limited time, limited budgets. And so what would you say as an agency owner is outsourced to you as an agency first? And then also, what do you think what do you recommend that businesses get help with first?
Well, what I get the most requests for definitely is social media management or ads, because that's a lot of people still kind of, they might think of there's their marketing and then there's their social media, instead of thinking of it as all, all of your marketing. So there is I get a lot of questions from people saying like, I didn't grow up with this, or I just don't really use social media much myself. So a lot of that comes from just like a lack of understanding or comfort in understanding the various platforms. And of course, as we know, every platform kind of works its own way, has its own set of best practices. So I would say that managing other social media, or obviously running like Facebook and Instagram ads or Google ads, those would be the most frequently requested services that I get.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So, real quick from our comments, let me pull up some stuff. So, Mitch says those pesky lurking fried pickle lovers. Yes, there are lurkers. But Katie was like, "This is exactly what I need." She's gonna catch the replay. So, thanks, Katie, for stopping by and dropping in. Yeah, you're gonna love this. And Jim, no, your name doesn't show up there, so I don't know what's going on. But one of the things, and I know Katie has talked about this before. But you mention a lot, you talk about invest in owned, and that's one of your favorite sayings, and that's your website and your email list. So that's, we hear that a lot. Everybody says, build your list, podcasts, all these episodes, build your list. But, if you're just starting out, that can be a little intimidating. So what are some of the fastest ways you found to build an email list if you don't already have one?
Yeah. Well, it's always important too, you own your website too. So really, the first point is so many people get so caught up in like the social media platforms. But if Zuckerberg changes his mind tomorrow, hey, guess what?
Right.
Instagram and Facebook are gone. So that's why you want to invest in your website and your email list, because you can have that and control it, and you actually own it. The email, really, to a certain degree, that's going to vary based on what industry you're in. So for example, when I've done online shopping primarily as my almost sole mode of shopping for a long time. So for example, retailers for clothes, shoes, I'll get those. Sometimes there's even like a wheel that spins that's on the pop-up, or that'll say, if you sign up with us, get 20% off your first purchase, or whatever that it may be. If it's something like, since we're all in the marketing space, it could be that there's a free download, but, people, I feel in general, have gotten more savvy with that over time.
Right.
So you can't just kind of throw up any kind of freebie. The ones that really make me act are ones that make me think, gosh, this is so valuable. I can't believe it's being given away for free. And, if you're more of an offline business, like you don't have a super active online presence, just talk about the brick and mortars. You can have people sign up at your registers. Either maybe your POS system allows for you to enter, or go back to paper and pen and say, hey, sign up for our email list, and we're going to email you again some kind of coupon to return and buy something in the store, some kind of discount. And if you do a lot of speaking or networking, that's another great way. If you can incorporate that in whatever like your speaking agreement is, so that the people who sign up to attend knowingly, give you,
Right.
and they're okay with giving you their email address. So, different industries, there's different methods of doing it. So it doesn't have to only be online. Like I said, you can rock it old school with a paper and pen if you want, but you do need to plan to give somebody something in exchange, something worthwhile in exchange for that email address.
So I want to go back to the website stuff, because, that's kind of started everything. Everybody was like, oh, like when I first started, I was building websites, like Flash-based versions. You can thank me later. Yeah, that's how old I am. But we kind of like, that's just kind of a given now, but sometimes we need to go back to the basics, because, a lot of people just put up brochureware where it's just like about us, who I am and my services. And there's not really much there to capture people's attention. There's not really much there to, have an offer or whatever. So how do you actually capture, I know you mentioned Google Analytics, that's a great thing, but how do you capture people going to your website, and how do you use it? Like, do you use a retargeting pixel so you can, target them on Facebook? Do you have it, is it book a call? What are some of the best calls to action that you've seen working on websites?
So again, it varies a little bit based on the industry. Like I have two service providers. One is a commercial cleaner and one is a roofer. And so, for example, just offering the free quote or a free roofing inspection, something like that. But there's the offer, but another part of it is you don't want to just have that, say, offer for a free quote in one spot. You really need to have it in multiple places. So that's something that I think people might create some kind of opt-in, or they do a pop-up, but they just have like one spot. So for example, with the commercial cleaner, they do a lot of blogging. They get tons of organic traffic from all the SEO from the blog posts. And so we have moved to doing an actual inline clickable button that says that we modify the text based on whatever that blog post is. So say if it's about window cleaning, we say, get your free window cleaning quote. And then they click that and they go to the, get a quote form. So you can do things where you're offering some kind of free service that's sort of like an entry into working with you. But the other part of that is make sure that you are offering that free thing in more than one spot on your website. If you are a heavy social user, really just about every platform does have some kind of retargeting pixel. So that is definitely an option. If you're very active on social, you have big social followings, or you really like to use different social ads, you can definitely put in place whatever your preferred social platform's retargeting pixel is on your website to sort of like nurture those people who have been to your website through ads. So that is another option.
Very cool. Okay, I'm going to throw an audible in here because I know, Grace, you're chomping the bit, but I got to ask this. SEO, you mentioned SEO, and that's something I know a lot of marketers stay away from, or they do it and they do it in the wrong way. and SEO can also have kind of a bad rep in the industry. So what should somebody who's looking to optimize their website, because so many people do not do it and do not know what they're talking about, and there's a lot of snake oil salesmen out there, what should they look for, and what do you recommend, like basic steps?
Yeah, so SEO, yeah, I'm a huge proponent of SEO. I mean, I actually do personally for my business, no paid advertising at all. I have incoming traffic and how I've built my business of over 11 years purely from SEO. So
Right.
I cannot say enough wonderful things about SEO. And I completely agree that it's something that like over 90% of businesses seem to just kind of bypass. So of course, there's different important tenets of SEO to just understand when you try to implement SEO on your website, and that could be a whole episode
Right.
just on itself. So I think a couple important things to just understand is that when you're implementing good SEO practices, it's both on page, so like things that a website visitor could see just in the copy, the use of headings, links to other pages on your site, but there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that you do with SEO. And so when you go to Google and you type in like pizza places near me or something, when you're seeing that list of search results, that top blue larger text font, that is the title tag. And then that smaller gray text beneath is the meta description. So when you are implementing SEO in your website, every single website page, product listing page, blog post on your website is a new chance to rank for a new keyword phrase, because every page would have its own title tag, its own meta description, alt text for images, all the things that you can kind of do. So that's what you're actually viewing when you're looking at Google search. You're looking at the title tag and the meta description for all of those pages that are showing up in those search results. I really feel like that when I train people in SEO too, like that kind of helps frame like the stuff that they're doing behind the scenes of their website to how so you're kind of like filling in the blanks for Google, you're kind of inputting that missing information from what's on your website page to what someone's searching for. So when you're implementing title tags, meta descriptions, those kinds of things, that's how you can start helping your website pages rank better. But in general too, we're even seeing this across social platforms. A lot of social platforms have shifted to SEO principles. Of course, YouTube, because it's owned by Google, there's so much SEO optimization that happens there. Pinterest has for years, it's about keyword usage, not even like the hashtags, but like what words you're using in the description. Instagram's even started going that way, that they're paying less attention to the hashtags and they're looking at what the keyword usage is in your caption. And then of course, any kind of on-platform search. So if you do start learning about SEO, it can definitely benefit your website, those blog posts. I like to say that the more links you publish on your website, it's like the more lines you're casting into the sea of Google.
Right.
So the more lines you cast, the more fish you catch. So learning about SEO is great for your website, but you also can start really improving some of your social media stuff too if you do start, getting serious about your SEO.
Awesome.
Okay, we're gonna have to do a whole other show on just SEO, Jeff.
Sure.
I had so many questions there.
Right now.
I was biting my tongue. I had so many questions.
I know. I was trying to condense
know.
it as best as I could too, because it's such a big thing. But yes.
Okay, well we're gonna have a show next where like we just talk about SEO unbridled, because I have things to say about it too.
Okay.
So, right. Okay, bring it back to like social media. So so before the show we were talking about how as marketers or social media marketers, there's always like the next thing, right? People are always talking about tactics or platforms or like gimmicks. It feels like gimmicks sometimes. And we all know that we need to be on some form of social media as a business, but how do you know which one you should be on as a particular brand? Like, do you have an audit process or a period of trial and error when new clients come to you and say, "Oh, I want to try this new thing, and I want to try this new platform," and like a lot of times, like you don't want to stop it too soon, right? So, for instance, example of YouTube, like it takes months to really get traction.
Right.
On YouTube. And then same thing you could say about any other platform, time periods are shorter, but how long do you advise clients to kind of stick with something before you're just like, yeah, this really isn't where I need to be?
Well, I would even say for me, I even would back it up one more step because I think there's a few different factors that come into play because um, you want to, think about what is a good fit from, where your customers spend time, right? And of course, you can also look at where your competitors are. But there's a lot of people who have that same shiny object syndrome. So they might have created 5 or 6 platforms. So just because they're there doesn't mean they're posting or they're growing there or that they're really getting anything out of those efforts. But then the other big thing is what kind of content do you have to pair with those channels? So a lot of times when people get really excited about, oh, you have to do reels or, fill in the blank, because those of us who've been around for a decade or more, we've seen so many must do things, right? So if you really think that you need to do video, whether it's for YouTube or reels, or you want to go live on whatever platform, but you or the people who work with you really aren't comfortable with doing it, it's silly to start going down in that direction if you know you're not going to really be able to commit to consistently producing that content. So my standpoint with that is more, I don't want to encourage a client to go down a path that they can't reasonably sustain. So I do think that you need to balance what kind of content you have, what you have to work with. Like Pinterest, you need to have a whole bunch of links and be able to create beautiful graphics if you really want to go anywhere on Pinterest. So if you don't have both of those, it's silly to get started on Pinterest. So again, I just try to be kind of like realistic and practical with that stuff. So that's why I said, like, even taking that a step back, it's not necessarily testing something for a period of time. Though I would say, like you were saying, I would say at a minimum 6 months before you figure out if you're really getting any kind of traction there. But also you need to be honest with yourself. Are you really pouring all the time and energy that you have into fully utilizing whatever those features are of that platform? Because it's long gone is the time where you could do the bare minimum and get anywhere on social. These platforms, between algorithms, the noise, there's just so many platforms have multiple features that you can't just do the bare minimum and it make a difference. So there's kind of that piece to it as well.
So we have a great question from Annette River, and she first of all, she commented, she goes, she didn't know that Instagram captions work like SEO. Thanks for sharing. I didn't either, Annette, and that's why I have this show, once again, free consulting. And she also goes, do TikTok captions work the same way? So do you know if they're starting? I don't know how SEO works on TikTok. I barely understand the platform, period. But do you know any insights on TikTok, how they're getting ranked in there?
I would say no, just because a lot of times the videos, they have very, very short captions at all. So I just don't think that, and people try to use the hashtags that are trending to try to get their videos to show. So like trending hashtags aren't necessarily tied into the content, and the captions are usually so brief. So there's just not the text there for it to be an SEO indexed kind of a thing. And so I would say no.
The interesting thing too is I think now they're starting to be, and on Instagram and TikTok, almost SEO for sound, because certain clips, some certain sounds become viral that people reshare or remix or whatever. So there's another layer on top of just text SEO. There's like, now you
SEO is where it's at, baby.
Yes,
I keep saying that.
That's right. All right.
Well, they all operate with the recommendation
engine.
Right. That's right. Thank you, Jeff. Yes. And I saw something where like Facebook is changing it too, where they're not offering you like, oh, here's your aunt's post and your cousin's post and your best friend's post. It's like recommended based on your content, which I personally think takes away from why I'm on there. But that is a third show that we can have as an off.
How Zuckerberg just copycats everybody and it just never works very well. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, anyway.
We just can't have nice things.
I know.
So are you going to ask the next question, or do you want me to move on to the other one on that, Grace?
Just very quickly, I know this is because, you and I are both working parents. All of us are working parents, and, school's out, people are taking time off to travel. And so let's talk about what you do to streamline your work when you're managing, for instance, multiple clients and still achieving some of that work life sanity, right? Do you have any tools or strategies or systems to have in place to help you manage social media? Because social media is like 24/7, obviously, right?
Yes.
But you can't do that. And you also need to sleep and eat and travel and do all these things. So how do you manage, well, well, how do you manage your clients and your own workload, working in social media?
Well, first I have to say I have like 4 or 5 contractors, so I'm not personally doing all the things for all the people. So there are certain things that I'm the only one who does, like no one else does SEO or Facebook ads or Google ads or that kind of thing. But I do have contractors who will manage some client social or even write business blog posts for clients. So some of my social is also managed by contractors, so there is that as well. I think people, when you're thinking about handing over tasks, sometimes it can be kind of scary. So I don't
Yeah.
think you have to like fully hand over tasks. So like for me, for example, and I will also say like Google Sheets are part of a really like just about every process, just because it's so easy to share with whatever contractor I need to, and you see everything in real time. So for example, if I have tips or advice or quotes or something that I want to have made into graphics, I can go ahead and put all of that in a spreadsheet. I can provide a contractor with like, here's a dozen or so, images to use as background images. I can have pre-selected 2 fonts that I want to use. She goes and creates them, loads them in as drafts, and then I can go back later and put captions, or I can have a whole column in that spreadsheet of what I want the caption to be. So even when you are sort of handing over some of your tasks, it's not like you have no connection to them or you have to 100% give someone else, that control. So, batching work obviously is always wonderful too. There's a lot of things you can just do at the same time. It really is just how your brain works too. The more you switch between things, the longer it takes to get those same tasks done. So just how your brain works, you're better off doing one kind of task for longer instead of jumping around. So I definitely use that batch approach for all kinds of work, whether it's for myself or for clients.
Yeah. So really quickly, we have so over on Amazon Live, Rich Graham says, yeah, TikTok only allows 150 characters or something like that. So that's why that's so hard for SEO. But Annette River once again says, she goes, I'm a mom of 2 myself, and it gets really overwhelming because I run my business myself. My customers are the dog owner community, and it's tricky to do everything. And so this is a common theme that we hear a lot, and we've all struggled with, I think, all the time. What is your advice? You mentioned batching and some other stuff, but it's, everything. We got to go to the next thing. We got to put out content. We've got to do this. We're going to go on vacation. We got to have content set up while we're gone and all this stuff. And we have all this pressure to create constantly. What are some other things that you do just to stay sane? You mentioned contractors. Do you sit there at the beginning of the week and plan out your entire week or your month or your year? I mean, what are your your strategies to stay sane in this place where we're always having to crank out over and over stuff, it seems like?
Well, I think one of my other mantras is do more with less. So I do think that people get caught into feeling, because it's like the next big thing, the shiny object syndrome. You can just have 1 or 2 social platforms. You don't have to have 3 or 4 or 5 platforms that you're trying to manage. So I do think that kind of helps contain the crazy. And, with the way the algorithms are, back in the day, it used to be that everything has to be unique on every platform. And that's just not the case anymore. Even if you have the same follower who follows you in 2 or 3 places, the fact that they will see that same exact post is so slim that that's also just really not a concern. I think another thing is, again, because of algorithms and just how many things people don't see, you can repost stuff you've already posted again. If you have podcasts, if you have blog posts, if you have videos that you've made, it's not like because you posted that once, you can't post it again, 6 months, 9 months, a year, into the future. So you can even keep track of, again, depending how organized you want to be. So like I have a couple spreadsheets for a couple clients that they have, like one of them is in the food world.
Right.
So there's like, keep a list of their products, keep a list of their recipes, and keep a list of their blog posts. And I actually track what dates they were used. So that way you can go through that and then, go through that again. So you can be sure, because that's the other thing too. If you want to keep repurposing your content, if you're not keeping track of it in some way, you can be like, wait, did I post this before? So you do, if you go that route, which you should, because that's good, useful content, assuming that it's evergreen, like it's still relevant. But you can just keep track of when you last posted it, and that way you can post it again. So don't think that even though you're creating content, you have to endlessly be creating content. You can reuse content you've already created again and again and again.
Right. It's a great example of this is I use Agora Pulse and I have a queue. So I chop up this show constantly and repurposing it out. And you can set for like how many times you want it to cycle. And so it's great for me because I had to do some stuff getting ready for Prime Day, and I already had it just was there, and I didn't feel the pressure that I always had to put new stuff in there. I already had a queue full of it.
Missing Letter does that too.
Yeah,
if anybody has used that as a tool. And like you said, for any kind of video or podcast, you can chunk it up into smaller sections too, to have like one piece of content can be used, or one blog post. If you talk about 5 tips to do something, you have that blog post, but then you can make some kind of graphic or short video talking just about each individual tip. So then you have 5 more pieces of content.
Right. Exactly. So I want to do a shout out. Our friend Sabrina is saying, she's watching over on LinkedIn, says, I am loving the show. Well, we're loving that you're loving. We love that you love the show because you're amazing. Thank you so much for doing all this.
I don't think we could do a show without Sabrina. Like, I think I feel untethered until she says hello.
I know. It's like, where's Sabrina? She's not here. Something has happened.
She's grounding.
That's right. She is a faithful supporter of the show, and we appreciate you, Sabrina. Let's move on to our next section, because I know Grace will yell at me if I don't get to the stuff she really wants to talk about. So there have been 2 recent Facebook updates that have the social media managers a little bit grumpy. That's really more than that, but the new Pages experience and Pro mode for personal profiles. So according to a post from Mari Smith, the new Pro mode on personal profiles and the new Page experience on business pages looks almost identical. You can tell which is which by the section at the top right that will either say profile or page and a category. So let's discuss these, because let's start with the new Page experience. I actually had to go change my profile photo because I was using the same profile across all my social media, and I couldn't tell what one I was on. So I went and changed it so I could see it. Some of my friends, like Peg Fitzpatrick, actually has one of hers black and white, so she knows which one she's on. It's really frustrating, but let's talk about this new Page experience. And by the way, if you have this new Page experience for yourself or your clients, drop an emoji down there how you feel about it. Let us know what you think about this new stuff going on in Facebook, because I'm really interested. But what are your thoughts, Liz, on this new Page experience?
Well, building off what you just said, I've had people who manage multiple pages who have said to me, hey, 2 of my pages were just turned into profiles, because that's how similar some of the parts of the new. So that's something to know. Like, if you're feeling like, I don't really know what just happened, because there's things like you can put in like your religious and political affiliations, and you're in, places you've lived and things like that you only see on profiles. And those are now parts of pages, business pages. So that's really weird. It's personally, like, my few things, definitely look at your intro, because what was the short description used to be 255 characters, and now it's about 100. So as I'm seeing pages convert, you'll have some kind of truncated version, like the first 100 or so characters, it just stops. So it stops like mid-word or mid-sentence. So definitely check out that. Now it's called intro, because you're definitely going to have to rework that. The tabs underneath the cover photo, like, because page templates are gone. Now, I don't know if that's temporary or forever, but we used to be able to change the page templates. Have not found that at all in the new Pages experience. Those tabs, they'll give you an option. They pretend like you can customize those tabs. You cannot reorder the tabs at all. Mm-hmm. And most of the tabs, they'll show that they're checked, but it's grayed out, so it doesn't let you uncheck. So there's just a few kind of at the end that you can decide to turn on and off. But that's really frustrating because, depending if you have lots of videos or photos, or you do or don't use reviews, for example, you might want to be able to change the order based on which tabs are more relevant for your business, and you can't do that anymore. Another thing I noticed too, for one client who's done lots of lives, he has a video tab and it's separate from the live tab.
Ooh.
So for whatever reason, the videos are split into 2 tabs. Not sure what that's about. Just a practical use, I think it's a lot more keystrokes or clicks or whatever, because you have to actually switch into and then remember to switch out of to go back to your. So I know not everybody's like us where we're in multiple pages, but I do have clients that have more than one page. And so you do have to do a lot more switching back and forth, which you didn't have to do before. I've even already had a client who has like an affiliated business who clearly was using Facebook as that page, and then she visited her other page, and then she was leaving comments as her other page because she didn't switch back, you know? So, so that's definitely something to be aware of as well. So those are kind of my initial, you know, observations for the pages that I admin.
And I haven't checked yet. Does it look different on mobile, or is it still, I mean, has it rolled over to the mobile experience as well? Because I have not checked that yet. And I'm sure, because I know a lot of people, like my wife, that's all she's on is Facebook on mobile. And so I don't know how that's going to work. Sabrina does say, she goes, all of my clients have the new page experience, and it's, you know, it's different, but once you get used to it, I can roll with it. Well, you can roll with things a lot easier than I can, Sabrina. I got really grumpy when they started messing with this stuff. And interesting, because Zuckerberg said, like, it's gonna be easier for you to do video content, and it's gonna highlight other things. It's gonna be easier for pages to get their thing out there. I went live the other day and nobody saw anything, which never happens. So something's still broken, and it's just really frustrating for creators. So anyway, I'll quit ranting. But
well, it's a pretty common grumble these days that organic social is down. Like the old tactics aren't working anymore. The summer slump, attention spans, what have you, you know. And so this new page experience came with a lot of big promises, like it'd be better engagement, and you know, you'd have better control. So based on your observations working with your clients and on your own pages, has this new page experience helped improve organic reach on pages, or is it helping with engagement at all?
No, I don't see any difference in that. It's just more of just like the look and the features that are the features of the page, which more like are the info fields or the tabs. That's really the only kinds of differences that I've noticed from it. And I have had some clients whose pages were converted over weeks ago, a fair amount of weeks ago. But then this week, and probably you guys have seen this too, every time I visit the page, it was counting down like 3 more days until this page gets to. So I think yesterday or today was kind of like where the countdown was ending. So it's very possible that just about every business page is going to be converted to that new look, you know, by this weekend.
Yeah. So yippee. Sabrina goes, it is not easier, in all caps. Yeah, so she's yelling at us. Not us, but at the powers that be of Facebook. So let's really quick breeze through this, because I don't think I have this yet, and I know you don't have it. If somebody has this down, let us know down below, but it's the new pro mode for personal accounts. So it's so confusing when they do all this stuff at once. So back in December, as a test, Facebook said there's no need for a business page if you're a creator building a presence on your profile. So Pro Mode promised to provide insights like audience growth, to open up monetization features through stars, paid online events, and bonuses, let users participate in the Reels bonus play program, which I have done, and we covered that with Molly Mahoney earlier this year, and allows creators to build a following more as a public figure, but still publish content to friends only. So other than the ability to publish content to friends only, do you see any other benefits for using Pro Mode versus a business page on Facebook, Liz?
I can just be the cynic, but I feel like there's no way they're not going to end up having it, that you're going to end up facing the same algorithm problems that business pages are. And it's so interesting because for so many years they built up the business pages as like, these are meant for these reasons. These have the features, like you have the insights, you can advertise and make money. And that was some of the distinguishing differences. And of course, now they've taken away with this new pages some of those ways. I mean, I know there's some of those page templates, like people who are big video creators, their business page look completely different, than other businesses. Or if you did a lot of services, you could really build out like your services section. So it's interesting because they've really removed some of the elements that made the business page more businessy. And then they're kind of introducing this hybrid profile that takes in a lot of that business stuff. So, and we all know that, Facebook doesn't like anyone to get anything for free. So when they start talking about you being able to make money off of this, pro profile,
Right.
I maybe in the short term, because they want people to start using it, they might, the algorithm won't be harmful, but I can't help but feel that there's a detrimental future
Right.
for those creators. I mean,
Right.
we've just seen it too much,
So I've got some great comments here.
Yes.
Sabrina says, Liz says, no, totally right. No difference, just more work. Jim says the problem is eventually you're going to have to adapt or things won't work anymore, which is not the countdown, I think. And so Sabrina does have the new pro mode. How do you know that you have it, Sabrina, and that you can switch back and forth? Because I am unclear on this. Jim
I think you have to go looking for it. I don't think they prompt you. You have to actually go to like your settings in your profile, and then you can turn it on.
Because a long time ago, I have a kind of creator profile for Jeff C, and I was able to migrate some of my personal people over to that. And I don't know. It's crazy. Dogs and cats living together. I switched to pro mode in the past, but switched back because when I did a live event, it would only allow me to invite followers and no longer friends lists. And, yeah, so Serena goes, Liz is so right. There's no difference. And so, yeah, it's so confusing. But you know what's not confusing? Our friends over at Ecamm. See how I segue that just so easily.
So beautiful.
It's so seamless. But yes, you don't need algorithms for Ecamm. That's what's so amazing about it. So if you'd like to find out more about how we're producing the show, even though I'm hitting the wrong buttons and messing up today so much, you can go to socialmedianewslive.com/Ecamm. They do have a special this month where you can actually get 30% off if you're a new user if you use the promo code July30. So make sure you guys go do that and use that promo code July30 before the end of the month. And yes, you can find out more about it at socialmedianewslive.com/Ecamm. And now it's Grace's turn. She's been chomping at the bit to go over this next part. She was like, Jeff, hurry up.
Go, you're fine, and you're not messing up at all. You're doing great, Jeff. You're doing great
today.
All right, so I'm gonna let you know, like, we are headed into a very panicky time right now, and I'll just leave it at that. Budgets are tightening, businesses are shoring up resources, and people are being very cautious right now. Now, you have owned your agency, Eli Rose, since 2011, and if we were to count, and I tried to do this the other day, the number of platforms that have come and gone since you and I have been doing this, Liz, it's a lot.
Gosh.
I know. And in that time, we've seen the rise of live video tools, things like Ecamm, which makes this so much easier to do. I mean, Jeff and I have been doing this for over 5-7 years, and just remembering what it used to be and how easy it is now to just log on, mind blowing. We have better social media management tools. We mentioned Agorapulse, Missing Letter, and then we also have the adoption of more creative tools. But at this moment, so there's just a lot. There's a lot going on. But what is the most common marketing challenge that you're seeing among clients or even marketers right now, and how are you helping them to overcome it? Like, what are people doing to prepare for this panicky time?
Well, I think one thing for sure is if you have been doing, Facebook or Instagram ads, those are definitely costing more. So that's one thing that if that's something that's been part of your marketing for a while is probably not working the same way. So there are some different things that, obviously you can keep testing different options. I just recently, for example, did a test of Facebook story, Facebook reel, Instagram story, Instagram reel of the same video. And shockingly, Facebook story kicked the ass of the other three by a lot, which, when you hear reels are the thing, like Facebook story was the one that got this incredible landing page view. So, you never know. So maybe you can keep trying to do the same things you've been doing, but maybe change up some, something in that. So don't necessarily walk away from Facebook ads or Instagram ads, but maybe your strategy needs to change. Maybe you need to be doing get some, videos going so you can build some retargeting audiences for very cheap, because video views are very cheap, so maybe some different placements, some different strategies are going to be what's going to make a difference for you. And I think too, people still just general consumer behavior, people are going to still visit your social profiles or visit your website to get up to date information on your business, what your hours are. Because, for example, right now, there's a lot of businesses that just because of worker shortages, they're not open as many hours, So that's one important way because customers are going to your Facebook page or your website to try to find out that information. But B, if that information isn't updated, that can create a very negative user experience, because if someone really has a hankering for tacos and they pull up at your restaurant and you closed an hour ago, nothing is more infuriating than having a craving for food and not being able to get it. So, so you shouldn't be like abandoning your marketing or not keeping things updated. I know some people naturally want to say marketing is the first, area where they save dollars or cut budgets, but you shouldn't stop marketing. So maybe you need to, shift some of your strategies. Like I said, change your tactics a little bit. But also, too often business owners are just thinking about it from their perspective and not their customers' perspective. So you really need to keep your customers in mind for things like, your hours of operations or specials that you're offering, or other things, important pieces of information that customers need to know about your business, because people are going, they're sending messages, they're going to your Facebook page, they're going to your website to get that basic information about your business. So you can't lose sight of that. Even though you might want to, you need to really make decisions based on what's best for your customer, not just what you might think is best for you.
Liz, I thought we were going to make it through the show without talking about food. And once again,
we started talking about food.
Somebody started talking about food, and now I'm hungry again. I need some tacos. So Jim goes, yeah, many don't know about what those points you just made about how important that is. And then Sabrina says, ABC always be marketing. Very, very true. And then Tim goes, shout out to MySpace. Yeah, that's important.
Yes. There's so many.
But so
that's just one.
Kind of the last question here is, during the pandemic, there was a huge rush to embrace social media, and especially video. If you weren't already on it, more video. So there's more saturation. There's, changing sentiment about social media. So how has your job in particular, evolved since the pandemic? So what kind of things have changed since you started?
Well, that's been interesting because, where a lot of businesses, kind of took a hit during COVID since that started. That wasn't the case for me, because I think there was a lot of businesses that either realized they needed to, make the most out of their online presence, not just social, but online presence, or businesses that utilize their online presence to kind of adapt their business so they could keep their business going, and they kind of, grew their business in different ways. So, and I don't mean to be like, oh, yay, go me, because obviously a lot of people were really, really hurt during the pandemic. But in the online world, this is why Zoom and Teams are now just part of our everyday vernacular, right? Because in the online world, that's where people who didn't use it as much as they do now. A lot of that is due to because of the pandemic. Even for generations, if we look at just generational differences, there are people in like, say, my parents' generation, though not my parents, who can do Zoom, so, but they never would have had a reason to use it before. So I think, the online world is a big sort of level playing field in a lot of ways. And that's why small businesses can still be really successful, because, you have access to the same social tools. You have access, even without getting maybe a professionally made website. There's lots of website platforms now that are very reasonably priced, that make it very user friendly to go ahead and build your website. So I think the online world just offers a lot to businesses of all sizes, and it really gives a way for those small guys to be successful and really grow.
So as we're closing out the show, I wanted to ask this one last question, and it's what is the best safety net quote unquote, to invest in now that we're, as we're preparing for the future in terms of marketing our social media. So for instance, we talk a lot actually on the show about community building. We've talked about website and our email list, but right now, what is the best thing that marketers should be, or businesses, I should say, should be investing in terms of their marketing?
Well, I'm always going to say your website and creating content. That's just, I mean, I would have said that 10 years ago, and I'm going to say that now because honestly, everything else, and we talked about your email list, which you mentioned, but everything else is something that you don't control. And, your website is, like I said earlier, where you're directing all of your marketing to. It's your online home base, or for online businesses, it's like your online version of what a brick and mortar store would be. So now with your website, it doesn't mean that it's an ongoing expense all the time because, not that it's completely set it and forget it either, but if you have recently, say revisited all your content, make sure it's up to date, correct, maybe freshen up some pictures or whatever, you can then leave your website for a while. So if your website is in good order, then I would put that focus on creating content. And then I really kind of feel like most every business really needs some kind of ad budget, regardless of where they use it. I do think that that's important at this point. But with the option of just warm audience use, whether it's you're using Google ads and you're funneling your website traffic, and you're doing warm ads that way, or you're using your warm social audiences or website audiences on social, some kind of ad budget. Doesn't have to be a lot, but I think that's also just going to be kind of like a mainstay in every marketing plan going forward.
Awesome. Well, to wrap it up, this is a perfect comment from Sabrina. She goes, I really love Liz. She must be my long-lost social sister.
Thank you, Sabrina.
So, thank you, Sabrina, for sticking with us. And yes, Liz, it was amazing. So Liz, where can people find out more about you? We've been bringing up your URL, but let's go ahead and say it, and so everybody in the podcast can hear it and find where you are online.
Yes. So my business is Eli Rose Social Media, and it's elirose.com. And I do have social accounts in either Eli Rose Social, or Eli Rose Social Media, just depending on whatever the limitation is, if it's Twitter or LinkedIn or Facebook or whatnot. So some variation of that is where you can find me.
Awesome. And where can we find the amazing Grace Duffy?
Here with you, Jeff, every Friday. 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific.
That's right. So thanks for Grace for putting this together. Thanks for Liz for being here. Thanks for you guys all in the comments. Colette just gave us a last final word over on LinkedIn. Says, great insight. Thanks, Liz. This has been a great show. Our next show is next Friday, July 29th at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central. You can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Amazon Live. We would love for you guys to give us a rating and review because we are a podcast. If you go to your favorite podcasting platform, search for Social Media News Live and give us a rating and review. That really does help us out. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you for our sponsor. We'll see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Meetings with Ecamm Live. First, you can connect your pro camera and then bring that into Zoom via Ecamm Live's virtual camera feature. So you can add your logo to the corner, and you can even add a QR code or swap it out with your social media handle. In fact, you can drag and drop any image or video, even GIFs, and you can add a PDF, PowerPoint, or Keynote presentation. So you don't need a videographer, a producer, or an editor to level up your Zoom meetings. You just need Ecamm Live.